In this AppSynergy tutorial, we're going to cover how to create reports. We're going to begin by showing a completed report and then show you how it was built. So this is the completed report in design mode. Let's run it with a little bit of test data and then let's pick it apart. So here we have an orders report broken down by customer, their orders, with a summary line for the order total and for the customer's total orders. If we scroll down at the very bottom here, we'll see there's also a total. So this 71,113 is the total for that customer, and then the final line is the total for the entire report. So these are called roll-up reports or master detail reports, and let's jump in now and show how to build them. So this report consists of data from two tables, the customers table and the orders table. If we're unsure, we can click on the report object, click join tables, and you can see the tables that are in the report. Here we can see it's selecting from customers and it's doing a join on the orders table. So let's go to this other menu option and build one. To begin with, we're going to select the customers table, and then we can drag off a report icon, or we can just drag off the table name. So we don't want all of these columns to begin with. Maybe we just want the customer's name. So I'm going to remove all the other columns except for the customer name. And this will just give us a list of customer names. Now we want to join in the orders table. To do that, we click down on the orders table. We drop it on top of the existing report. And if we look up here underneath join tables, we'll see it's select from customers, then a left join on orders, and it's matched up the customer ID in the orders table to the customer ID in the customers table. It knows this from the foreign key relationships that we established when we created the tables. The other report also had this set to inner join. A left join would include all of the customers, whether they have orders or not. We have a bunch of dummy data in this database, so we are going to restrict it so that we are only going to show customers with orders. Now, probably the easiest thing to do is also to remove all of the order columns from the table and then add them back one by one, just the ones we want. So let's go back to this report, and we're going to see order ID, order date, and the total. So let's do this by adding back order ID, order date, order total, and I believe we had order status in here. That was here. Now that we have the tables and columns that we want in the report, it's time to set up the grouping and the summarization. Let's start with the grouping. The other report had it grouped by name and then also grouped by order ID. So if we come up here and say group by name, and then the order ID, we're going to group by the order ID. If we did not group by the order ID, it would just show the amount of sales for a customer on each line. Next, the order total is just the order total for the line. What we really want is a computed column here. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this column, and we're going to add a computed column. And the computed column, we're going to call it order total. It's going to be a number. We are going to show the value of the summary reports and the roll-up reports. And we could use a formula builder here and do aggregate functions sum. And then in the expression, we want the order total. So we already have the field there from the orders table, and there's one called order total. So here we're going to sum up the order total. So on each individual order, it's just going to be that number because it's a single record. However, for a given customer, it's going to show it's going to sum up all of the orders for that customer. So the easiest way to understand this is to run the report and play with it. So let's run test app, and let's go to the report that we built, and we'll see here that the numbers are not formatted as currencies. We'd probably want that. And you notice there's no summary So all we're seeing is the customer and their individual orders, but not the total for that customer, and there won't be any total either. This is because we have not set the option to make this a roll-up report. We've simply grouped it by customer name and order number. So let's go back and change these things. So let's format it as a currency, and then we need to set the option for a master detail roll-up report. And once we've done that, you can see this is checked. Now if we test the application, you'll see its format is very different. So that's the report we're shooting for, and this is the one we're building. And you can see now that you have a total for each order, and then you have a total for each customer. And at the very bottom, you'll have a total. So we also want this report to fill the screen. Right now, the screen is getting larger, but we want the report to fill the whole screen. So to do that, we can begin by resizing its height and its width. But if we want to make sure that the report expands to fit the screen, we need to come up here underneath Format, Layout Options, and change the width type to dynamic and the height type to dynamic. Right now, we're just going to click Test App. Let's go to the one we're building, but you can see we've got what we want. Although that's essentially all there is to creating this report, let's dive into these calculated columns. These can be very complicated because they support something called a correlated subquery, which means that this can be a full select statement that's fired off for each one of the rows in the report. So this allows you to grab data not just from the join tables, but from any other table in the database, and you can do things with correlated subqueries that are simply not possible with joins. There are also analytic functions, sometimes referred to as data windowing functions because they break the data down into groups, that go beyond the scope of this tutorial. But know that there are a lot of them and they are very powerful, so it's worth clicking through the help and reading about them to see if they'll help you create the type of report that you want. Rather than bore you with actually recreating this header, we'll just point out that this is merely a button connected to the report with its print object action selected. And the export button, likewise, is just connected to the report with its export data option selected. If we run this application and we click print, you'll see in a print preview that we're printing just the object, not the entire screen. Also, if we click export, we'll have an Excel sheet with the data from the report. Next, although we have shown how to do filters and reference search boxes, this one is using date fields, and it has 2 of them for a date range, so that when we specify a date range, it pulls up the records for the report just for that date range. Let's look at how those are done. First, there is a filter on this widget called date range, and it has the order date is on or after at value virtual start date, and the order date is on or before the end date. So that refers to these fields here. This button, just like in the other case, is just going to apply that filter called date range. These also have default values, even though they're virtual fields. So the start date starts at 2 years ago. So it's today minus 365 times the day quantity times 2, so that'll be 2 years. And then the end date is simply a default value of today. That's it for this AppSynergy tutorial video. Please be sure to check out all the other tutorial videos available on our website.